This is food poisoning, and I want you to recognize it. It may be a step better than the original muscle or secretion, but only a tiny step better. And these are the fake foods many of you are into. The fake meats, the fake burgers, the fake hot dogs, the fake cheeses. They're still food poison. You're not going to get well by switching to these fake foods. This is food poison. Think about this. I can't say it too many times to you. Think about this. The fat goes someplace. The fat you eat is the fat you wear. Like the Nelson twins and Willie, all over their face, and they end up growing bacteria that make horrible acne. So it goes on the skin and it goes under the skin. There is nothing especially attractive about wearing olive oil around your waist or in your buttocks or your thighs. It isn't any prettier than pig fat. Okay. One of the reasons that we're still involved in this food poisoning, and it's so massive all over the world. This isn't just a problem in the United States. I told you I was in India 7 weeks ago. The people in India are suffering from massive food poisoning, particularly the wealthy people. Type 2 diabetes, obesity, breast cancer, and so on. China. I haven't been to China, but I hear reports of China. What's happening there over the last 30 years. 30 years ago, fewer than 1% of the population in China had type 2 diabetes. Now, what they reported last year in the Journal of the American Medical Association, is 12% of the Chinese have diabetes and 50% are pre-diabetic. Yeah. This massive food poisoning continues because of marketing. And it's not a conspiracy. I just want you to know that this is business. The reason that this continues with your friends and relatives is because business is acting like business. And what business does is it tries to sell its products. And one of the ways that a business sells its products is it finds something special about its product and it markets it to death. In this case, your death. It's called unique positioning. Unique, they tell you something special about their particular car or computer or fax machine, or in this case, food. They take something special about it and they just advertise it to death. Like automobiles these days. The special thing about an automobile these days is the fact that it gets 54 miles per gallon. You know, it's designed to be fuel efficient. And they are. But most of them are designed very flimsy, very lightweight. And if you get in an auto accident, you're much more likely to be killed in one of these light cars than in a more traditional heavy car. But that's not what they advertise, is the fact that you and your family may be crushed to death. They advertise the fact that it gets 54 miles to gallon. You see, it's just business. And so it is with the food industry, is they just take something unique about their product and they advertise it, whether or not it's true. They're not out there trying to hurt you. This is not a conspiracy. They're just trying to sell product. For example, in the food industry, they have taken one quality of their food, let me give you an example, protein, and they advertised it to the point where everybody believes that you must eat what to get protein? Meat. And the first thing your friends will say to you when they find out you're vegetarian or vegan is, where do you get your protein? Oh. I want to tell you, I have researched it thoroughly. I've studied the scientific literature that's been published over the last 100 years. I know it backwards and forwards. I want you to know that there is no such thing as dietary protein deficiency. You have never had a friend or a relative who has suffered dietary protein deficiency. Dietary protein deficiency has never been reported in any circumstance, experimental, historically, any place on the planet. Never been reported on any diet that was sufficient in calories. It doesn't exist. There's no such thing as protein deficiency. Okay? Another position that a food company takes has to do with calcium. If I say calcium, you say milk, dairy, cheese. You must understand, you can research it yourself. You have one of those little, Blackberries or iPhones or computers. You can do the research yourself. You will find out quickly that there has never been a report of dietary calcium deficiency ever on any diet that's been sufficient in calories. In other words, populations that live on rice, no dairy, no calcium pill. It's never been reported. There's no such thing as dietary calcium deficiency. Yet that's the second thing that your friends will ask you when you tell them that you're on a vegan diet. Well, where do you get your calcium? Okay, now just one third example, the last example of unique positioning. If I say omega-3 fat, you say fish. Understand that no fish has ever made an omega-3 fat. No animal can desaturate at the carbon-3 position to create an omega-3 fat. No cow, no pig, no sparrow, no fish, no lobster. They can't do it. Only plants can desaturate at the carbon-3 position. Only plants can make omega-3 fats. Yet everybody knows. If you don't eat fish, you'll get omega-3 fatty acid deficiency. So here you have it. You have 3 warnings to you to not change your diet. If you do, you'll become protein deficient. You'll become calcium deficient. You'll become omega-3 fat deficient. You will, except that it's never happened. There is no such thing. It is not a conspiracy. Nobody's trying to hurt you. If it was a conspiracy, then we would find this alignment where we'd see farmers not having heart attacks. We'd see butchers not having their wives get breast cancer. We would see pork farmers not having constipated kids. You see, they would take all this information about good eating, and they would keep it to themselves and their family, and they let all you get sick, all of us get sick. That's not what happens. These farmers, these marketers, they're just as sick as everybody else. Everybody is living under this delusion, this misinformation. And until you understand that a starch-based diet with fruits and vegetables supplies all the calcium, all the vitamins, all the minerals, all the essential fats, all the everything you need, you are impaired in your ability to solve food poisoning. When you look around the world, and this is the theme of the book that I wrote and published in 2011 called The Starch Solution, what you'll find is all large successful populations of people throughout all of verifiable human history have obtained the bulk of their calories from starch. As I told you, the Chinese before 1980, nobody was obese. Fewer than 1% of the population had type 2 diabetes. 90% of their diet came from rice. It's because they gave up the rice that they're fat and sick today. So you have the Asians living on rice. You have the Mayans and the Aztecs in Central America living on corn. You have the Incas in South America living on potatoes. Every time you turn on the news in the evening, you see stories about Egypt and Iraq and Iran and Afghanistan. That part of the world is known as the breadbasket of the world. These people for thousands of years lived on bread as people have in Western Europe. But all of a sudden, bread is evil. Starch makes you fat. How'd that happen? So the diet that has always been consumed, the diet you need to consume, is a diet based on starch with the addition of fruits and vegetables. That's the human diet. I wrote the book called The Starch Solution. It's the last word book I'm going to write. Instead, I've written this color picture book for you. Now, I could go back over those pictures I showed you of the beef and the chicken and the fish and the butter and so on. Just remember the images that went through your mind. Those are the things you have to give up. The yellow and the brown food that tastes of grease, well, then it tastes of salt and sugar because they're trying to hide the disgusting or bland taste. What you have to do is you have to substitute those food poisons for these foods. See how you react to these pictures. This is how you solve food poisoning. We served these yesterday morning before the folks went home from their Whole Foods immersion program. They loved the pancakes. This even went over well in India. I tell people when they come to the program, either they come to the 10-day program or they come to the immersion program, the first night we serve pea soup, which is made of peas and potatoes and carrots and various kinds of vegetables. And I tell them, I ask them, do they like the pea soup? And they say, oh yeah, we love the pea soup. And I tell them, you can go home after the program and you can live on pea soup and water for breakfast, lunch, and dinner for the next 18 years. You'll be in phenomenal health. You don't have to make a big deal out of this. You can make up a dish like this and eat it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner 14 times a day, 7 days a week. Just live on these kinds of foods. They have everything you need in them. I'm sure you find this attractive. Oh, mashed potatoes. If it wasn't for mashed potatoes, I wouldn't be standing here right now. I was a very sick kid. I grew up in a family. My mother, she was from the Depression era. She had to live on potatoes and rutabagas and, really basic stuff during the Depression. They lived on the verge of starvation. My mother did, and my father. And as life got better, one of the promises they made to their children is they'd never have to suffer like they did. And we didn't. At 7, I was severely constipated and lost my tonsils. As a teenager, I had the same kind of skin and acne problems the girls had. At 18, I had a massive stroke. At 24, I had major abdominal surgery. At 22, my mother called me fat. I'm 158 pounds now. I topped out at about 228. Yeah. But I didn't suffer like my mom did. No, I didn't. But she did make great mashed potatoes. This is my point. My mother would make for Bill, my brother, who, by the way, is a doctor, who was down helping us last week with this whole food immersion program. She would make this great mashed potatoes with peas and corn. She put a brown gravy over the top. I know, the brown gravy wasn't made healthy then, but it is now. And it's still one of my favorite dishes. I could live on mashed potatoes and peas and corn and brown gravy 3 times a day. That's the meal we had Friday night as a graduation meal for the people at Whole Foods. Was mashed potatoes, and it was the main course. Sweet potato. You can live on sweet potatoes and water. You can live on potatoes and water. You don't need anything else. Potatoes are known as the anti-scurvy vegetable. People have, by the millions, lived on potatoes and water alone. That's all they had. It supplied all the protein, all the vitamins, all the minerals, all the calcium. Everything they needed came from potatoes. In South America, millions of people, that's all they had. In Poland and Russia, 114 years ago, that's all they had. Post-World War II Germany, that's all they had. Fortunately, that's all you need. All the nutrients you need, all the nutrients you require, you can get from sweet potatoes and water alone, or potatoes and water alone. Now, you can't do that with seeds. You can't live on a grain like rice or rye or barley or wheat or legumes like beans, peas, and lentils and water alone. You can't do it. The reason is because they're deficient in vitamin A and C. So to live on a diet of rice, you would have to add a slice of orange a day or a flowerette of broccoli a day to get your A and C. Otherwise, you could live on rice or barley or wheat or barley and beans like the gladiators did. You just have to have a little bit of fruit and vegetable to add the A and C. But if you don't want to go to that trouble, just eat potatoes and water. You'll be fine. The staff of life, bread. Bread is an evil food. Well, excuse me. For 10,000 years, people have lived on bread as their primary source of calories. It's the staff of life. There's something wrong when it is one of the most feared foods ever. One of the foods I like best. How about this picture? Do you like this? Are you naturally attracted to this? Do you call this comfort food? Well, you do. Why do you like this? Because it's your food. That's what you're supposed to eat. That's why you react positively to this. I should have mixed this with some of the beef and chicken, but you remember. This is how you solve food poisoning. We prefer brown rice. If you come to our clinic, we only serve brown rice. You come to Hawaii with us in January. We're going to take 140 people to Hawaii. We do this once a year. And we take about 140 people to Costa Rica. We have not only brown rice, but we also have white rice. This is a vacation. White rice is not a deal breaker. Not preferred. You're better off with brown. But you'll do just fine. I mean, up until 1980, 2 billion Asians lived on white rice without a case of obesity. You could stand in a town square in Thailand or Vietnam or Cambodia, you could stand in a town square with 100,000 other people. There wouldn't be a single fat person on white rice. You do okay on white rice, preferably brown. That's how you cure food poisoning. These are not soy burgers. Do note, they're grain burgers. All right, so you see all the green lights. My grandsons could clearly tell green, this is what you're supposed to eat. Red for the other ones, that's what you're not supposed to eat. And then some fruits, you can have some fruits. 1, 2, 3, 4 fruits a day is plenty. You could eat more. A lot of simple sugar, not very satisfying for very long, very tasty. But you need that starch as the center of your meal plan to last you through. To give you the sustained energy, the endurance that you need, you got to have that starch. Fruit isn't going to quite do it. You can try. Not going to hurt you. And a few green and yellow vegetables. A few, not much. You've tried. Didn't work.